to know if I'm okay, because we've both had backs and we've both had surgery this last year. And I said, I'm walking and talking, and some people say I'm talking too much. Carry on.
All right. Well, we are live now on Facebook around the world. From the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, welcome. My name's James. Some call me Thundercloud, but James rhymes with fun and games. Why not? Yeah. All right. So tonight we don't have Ashley Albanese, who's up in Murwillumbah visiting his mum. So yeah, hello Ashley up there in Murwillumbah and family. But welcome Doug, Paul, Rob, Andrew, Eddie, Gladys, Jeff Kendall, who is a cousin of the famous Australian poet Henry Kendall, and over there, hello, name who shall remain nameless. Now, and I'm gonna do a special tonight of my own stuff for the year. I've written nearly 60,000 words of poetry this year, so just a little bit. But because Jeff's here, I'm going to start with one of Henry Kendall's from this book, which is really, really brittle, so I've got to be very careful with it. Henry Kendall, At Dusk. But before we start, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we sit and listen, and this broadcast goes out to around Australia and around the world on Facebook, and later on uploaded to YouTube, the Banbai people and the Kamilaroi people, who were on a bit of a crossover here, and acknowledge the continuing connection to the land of the elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded. And this is the last night of Wednesday Words for 2021, but we'll continue next week. So we'll see you next year. This is At Dusk by Henry Kendall. At dusk, like flowers that shun the day, shy thoughts from dim recesses break and plead for words I dare not say for your sweet sake. My early love, my first, my last mistakes have been that both must rue, but all the passion of the past survives for you. The tender message hope might send sinks fainting at the lips of speech. For are you lover, are you friend that I would reach? How much tonight I'd give to win a banished peace, an old repose, but here I sit and sigh and sin when no one knows. The stern, the steadfast reticence, which made the dearest phrases halt and check the first and finest sense, was not my fault. I held my words because there grew about my life persistent pride, and you were loved who never knew what love could hide. This purpose filled my soul like flame, to win you wealth and take the place where care is not or any shame to vex your face. I said, till then my heart must keep its secret safe and unconfessed, and days and nights unknown to sleep, the vow attest. Yet, oh my sweet, it seems so long since you were near, and fate's retard the sequel of a struggling strong, and life is hard. Too hard when one is left alone to wrestle passion never free, to turn and say to you, my own, come home to me. Henry's poem, and I think that was, it is going, so it's live. Excellent, thank you. That was published in, like the late 1800s, that book. All right, I'm going to do a bit of shameless self-promotion here. Why not? This is called Obey. These are my Disobey shirts, yeah. This is designed by me. You can get this on, just contact me and you can get one. But I've got Disobey stickers, Disobey cups, and a Disobey snow dome with love hearts. Obey. I'm about to destroy everything you know, so please listen as I read this carefully and slow. Is it a fact that you tell me, my friend, or is it a belief that serves no proper end? Is it a scientific, factual truth that serves you, or is it pre-programmed belief that isn't quite true? How did you come to that opinion, my friend? What information brought you to this end? This belief that you speak about seems to cause grief. Are you sure your opinion is not just a belief? Have you researched the truth, critically looked at the fact, or is this just a belief about how you learnt to react? Have you researched and analysed all information? Is this just a belief that's causing you frustration? I know that you only know what you know, so I'll spell it out carefully and slow. There are things that you know you don't know, and things that you don't know that you don't know. Things that are programmed that you can let go. Beliefs have no facts that you can show. A fact can be verified with real evidence, providing support for assertion of arguments. Opinions are judgments based on facts. Opinions can be changed on how you interpret the facts. Beliefs are convictions based on personal faith with no evidence or facts. They're based on faith. Prejudice are reflections of narrow minds having no place in argument at any time. Beliefs are based on values or morality, cannot be tested with logic or rationality. Prejudices come from friends, family and media. Prejudices when another plants a seed in you. Acting on fears and pessimistic predictions like that you need to get vaccinations, believing that negative outcomes will get you, so you need to be prepared in case predictions come true. A belief is acceptance of something without proof, without empirical evidence to prove the truth. Is it a fact, opinion, prejudice or belief? Only facts fully, truly serve us, and the rest cause a lot of grief. Only facts are factual and they are verifiable linguistically. This fact is undeniable. Be careful of bad spirits, they can harm you. This is an example of a belief that's not true. Why am I even writing about this stuff? Because of prejudices and beliefs. I've had fucking enough. Beliefs are the foundation of our lives and our habits. Like chocolate eggs come from the bums of rabbits. And if you believe in the Lord, you'll have eternal life. Religious beliefs cause much pain, war and strife. Like the prejudice that we need a nationality is non-factual and not based on rationality. Beliefs are for people who want to conform. It takes courage to go against the norm. Now, hold your tongue and be careful what you say. Reassess your beliefs and have a lovely day. Please consider what I have just said and turn the world upside down on its head and disobey.
Oh.
Yeah. Sucking it up. And I'm sure a lot of us have had enough of the bullshit.
I want you to go and see the headmaster.
The headmaster is not the master of my head.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. All right. So,
Could I interject to that,
yes,
or part of it?
absolutely.
Very true. I agree with heaps of what you've just proposed. I don't know if any of you remember the television series of Jonathan Creek.
No.
He was comic. He was. It was a series he was a magician's assistant, as in composing the illusions, or making them, designing them, and he was also good at finding illusions in terms of criminal investigation. Right, it's a very interesting thing.
Yeah.
You're talking about, about beliefs and religious influence.
Oh, yeah.
There was one on a recent show. Repairian has a number of series of DVDs, which is why we were watching this one. And there was a church in England in the, I think it was the 1500s or so, which had what was called Satan's Chimney. Ever heard of it? You have? I was fascinated. I didn't know what it was. But to keep it short, don't say that to Irene. Sorry.
We know it's not going to happen, Jack.
There is the tower in a castle, in a church, also a castle, of course. In those days, it was a fortress, and the tower was cylindrical, about the size of this room, and very high, of course, and nothing in it, except the ceiling, as such, had a hole about that big in the centre. That was that. They had incriminated, accused, or whatever, a man who was taken down. They put a ladder down from the window. They took him down there, or down a passageway, whatever, and chained him, spread eagle, on his back, to 4 bolts in the floor, whatever. And they left him there to be judged.
Okay.
And the next morning, the priest came to the cubby hole, opened the door, and there was no body, no remains. 4 bolts were there with a little bit of burnt something on them. And he wailed and bemoaned, and Satan had taken him, and therefore he was guilty. This was when you were burning witches and all that sort of stuff. Okay. It was revealed by the good Jonathan Creek. He took an hour, I'll take about another 2 minutes, that the ceiling was a false one. It was actually a big platform, and it was linked to the drawbridge mechanism. And when you lifted the drawbridge, or lowered it, I'm not sure which, this ceiling came down and crushed the man. Okay. And there was nothing left. And he was still there. Now, he's now been sandwiched. Now, on the top of this other one is another 4 bolts, which are connected to the chains, to the drawbridge and winches and stuff, right? So when they've decided he's finished, I don't know how, but they ignite or detonate or whatever the 4 cords, or burn them or whatever. That's why there's now little burnt bits on the floor, and the small was chained up through this little hole. And the next morning it appears that Satan has been and done his job. And it's called Satan's Chimney.
Imagine. Yeah. All right, thank you very much.
Mm.
All right, we're moving right along with the poetry now. So this was something that... Okay, this is something I wrote a little while ago. I don't know when, it doesn't matter. Called Dennis. I did this last week. I'm going to do Dennis again. A tall fishing story titled Dennis, and I wrote this for the Guyara Trout Festival's poetry, Poets Breakfast here. So a tall fishing story simply titled Dennis. Fishing for a shoe in a canal in Venice. I fell into the canal and met a fish named Dennis. Dennis said, "It's a lovely to meet you. How do you do?" And he said it in Italian as you'd expect him to. Because Dennis was a talking fish in an Italian canal, and I think I must have hit my head when I slipped and fell. Dennis asked, "Why are you fishing for a shoe?" "Oh, I dropped it in the canal." "What was I supposed to do?" "You could have called a rescue fish to get it back. My cousin is a shoe rescue fish and his name is Jack. But first, you haven't given me your name." "I'm Thundercloud Repairian. My mum calls me James." Speaking Italian in a canal with a fish named Dennis, because I dropped my shoe into the canal in Venice. Dennis asked, "Do you want to come and play?" And he took me to this cool pool hall and we played pool all day. Because everybody knows that fish love cool pools, there were many fish there hanging out in schools, as well as a Jewfish there playing a Jew's harp, and it was tuned to the key of F sharp. Plus, the octopus who was playing 4 pianos. There's so much more to tell, and so the story goes. Dennis then suggested that we go on a space trip. That was when I thought, I've really lost my grip. The octopus, who was the pilot of the UFO, well, we teleported there faster than you can say slow. And we were on a fishy planet that was ruled by whales. It's the truth, and it's not one of my fishy fake news tales. The sun was setting fast and the night was getting dark, but who should arrive but the bioluminescent shark and a bioluminescent dogfish who would provide the light for the party with the whales, and Dennis, the talking fish, that night. We drank prawn cocktails of krill oil and crab. Dennis, the talking fish, really has the gift of the gab. And when the party was over, we teleported back to Venice, me, the pianist octopus, and as the pilot, and the talking Italian fish named Dennis. Dennis then suggested that we go to the virtual reality arcade to see how 2-headed midget elephants are made. You don't even want to know about the purple flamingo, who was riding a merry-go-round with a guitar-playing dingo and a 2-headed midget elephant giving birth in a virtual reality replica of the entire planet Earth. My day with Dennis, the talking fish, was totally weird. I pinched myself to see if I was awake and pulled my beard. And when I awoke that next day, I was at home in my bed. Was it real? Or was it just a dream instead? Can you imagine such a bizarre situation? I did. It was all in my imagination. Another one that I wrote for the Trout Festival, Smells Like Sardines. A man went fishing, it's a short one. A man went fishing and he threw his line out, and when he pulled it in, he caught a trout. So he threw his line in and he made a wish. I wish that I could catch a really, really, really big fish. He pulled his line in and he caught a sardine like no sardine has ever been seen, not 10 centimetres but 3 whole metres. A world record sardine and a very big eater. Now, this is the next one written for the same thing, dead jellyfish. A jellyfish was floating happy through the sea with 1,000 jellyfish all floating free. And this was a thought going around in its head. I've never seen a jellyfish dead. The jellyfish was in deep contemplating, thinking very deeply about his situation. I'm a jellyfish with no arms, legs, eyes or head. I haven't got a mouth. I can't even say, my name's Fred. A jellyfish was thinking thoughts very cute. I'm androgynous, bisexual, and I've never had a root. I have no genitalia. I haven't even got a bed. I'm floating in an ocean and I'll never get ahead. A clear jellyfish met a jellyfish that's blue. The blue one said, I can see through you. The clear one replied, that's no way to address a parent. The blue jellyfish replied, my parents aren't transparent. A jellyfish was floating in the sea with friends, and this is where my jellyfish story ends. A turtle ate the jellyfish, it went inside his head, and that's why you'll rarely see a jellyfish dead. Okay, well, we're at the end of the year, and this was written at the very beginning of the year, about resolutions, New Year's resolutions, like the bad habit rabbits. Or the good habit rabbits. A resolution was made to shit out my rabbits, the bad habit rabbits, and grow good habit rabbits, because new good habits were what I needed to do. I said, hasta la vista, baby, on January 2. See you later, princess, I've dragons to slay, you're dropped like a bad habit, I'm going away. I took my peace and love and left with a boom, and left a bad habit rabbit ranting in her room. Shut out a bad habit rabbit when I did a poo, fed a new good habit rabbit, in its place a good habit rabbit grew, found a town where the new good habit rabbits walked around, settled down and said, farewell to bad habit rabbit town. Make my bed in the morning, exercise and clean my room, all because one New Year's Eve I ate a blue mushroom. This message from the mushroom was something like this: shit out your bad behaving rabbits and they won't be missed. Feed your good habit rabbits lettuce and sit them in the sun, because good habit rabbits love feeling good and also having fun. Another year is here and it's time to shit me rabbits. Introspect, self-reflect and shit out the old bad habits. Plant a new good habit rabbit seeds after my last fart. Nurture them with water, them with love from my heart. Going forward in the year with good habit rabbits that are new healthy behaviours adopted and grown in 2022. No bad habit rabbits up my bum sound kind of funny, but everybody knows a warren is the home of a bunny.
Oh.
Well, that's because my surname is Warren, right? Yeah. All right. Farting rainbows is funny. A multicoloured arched fart, technicoloured, perfumed, gaseous, not runny. Do unicorns leave rainbow skid marks on the dummy? Rainbow farts don't exist at night. They only happen after rain and only in the sunlight. And rainbow farts often come from thunderclouds. And rainbow farts don't smell but are thunderously loud. That's it. And I'm going to finish off here, and after that, I'd like to invite Doug on up. You got something for us tonight, Doug? Yeah? All right, absolutely. This is, oh. No, okay. I'm going to finish off with the Guyara Gazette. This is the Guyara Gazette. It's a little newspaper. Comes out every Wednesday. It's got 12 pages. And this is inspired by that. The Guyara Gazette. Men's bowls and midweek golf. Plus, the Guyara lamb and sheep sale. Council news, what's hot, opinions and views. 4 nominations is headline news in the Guyara Gazette. Every Wednesday, once a week, dance classes, art exhibition, plus quote of the week. Have your say on the drought management plan. Coaches wanted for rugby. Food Pantry Friday, and don't forget to claim the date, cheese making courses. Do you need great first cross lambs? Meeting room for hire. We can arrange Zooms, church services, and wild dogs killing sheep. 2 millimetres of rainfall this week. The best local news that you can get is free. So please advertise in the Guyara Gazette. Okay. I'm going to invite Doug on up. Thank you.
I got 2. I can't guarantee I'm going to do 2. That's my plan. Don't forget Andrew's going to do it for you too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I've already forgotten.
No. Would you like to go next, Andrew?
I don't know, maybe. We'll see how that goes.
All right. Or Paul?
No, I might have to say.
Rob. Yeah, absolutely. Rob.
Next.
Okay. Next.
Is he going to do it, doesn't he?
After you.
After you.
All right. I tried to give me a handout. I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not standing in the camera yet.
No, you are.
I didn't want to be famous, but
You are.
You
You're
are.
going
Never
live
thought
around
about
the world.
I never thought about things like this. Okay, there's one. Okay. Oh. Sorry, I'm just sorting because I got a few different versions. That. That's blank. Shit. So they had 2.
There's more in here, man.
Some of them, mate.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next one. Oh yeah, thanks mate. Yeah, I'm a bit dishevelled.
That's all right.
Someone said, get some good shoes, you look like a tramp. And I said, well, who I am, and it's getting a little late to change. Anyway. Alright, so I've got 2.
2 pairs of glasses too.
I got everything, mate. Yeah. People have been asking me for years why I wear 2 pairs. I never give them a real good answer yet. Okay. Thanks for having me. Thanks for being here. Now this is a little bit, I was saying to Gladys before this night, before out there, I don't have dramas today, I don't have surprises. I have poetry opportunities. So, I like the concept of that. and I'm only a new person, I'm only a baby in this. Right. So the other day I did a few Christmas calls, and this woman I used to know, she'd come to the hotel. I used to live in this hot springs hotel in Montana for a while, and she's a bit like me. I got thrown out and so did she, but that's a long story. But she's telling me a story about the lockdown and living in Butte, Montana, which is south of where I used to be. And I know the place. I've been there a lot, and I know where she lived, and I've been down the hill. She lives up on top. Anyway, I'll read this as best I can. Sorry about the PM. No, I'm not really that sorry. Can a beanbag bring a healing to a stressed, damaged soul? A beanbag. Can a victim of mandate be helped back to whole? In Old Butte, Montana, Butte's a mining town. In Old Butte, Montana, a friend from the past had an Xmas car problem and needed it solved. Ice and snow made it hard to move out from her cage. They towed her car down the hill into an old aeroplane hangar where a friend fixes cars in the winter. I've been down that hill. I know what it's about. It just brings up for me. She came down to check on the progress they'd made. Was touched to see freedom fun happening. A beanbag was heaved from one place to the next. You got points for touching the target. Come over, they cried. We're having a ball. Relax here with us. We'll not make a fuss. We don't give a fig about your status of vax. She said, well, I have been a hermit so for long. I felt without song. I just couldn't be with the people. I said, but I'll come here soon if there aren't any rules to behave to. Thank you for your welcome with no strings attached. My lonesomeness lifts by the moment. Your smiles and your fun have raised me from slumber. Sounds a bit disjointed, that's what it says. Thank you. It's easier for me because I've been there. Okay. Now this one's called prose. Short enough, I guess. Prose can make you feel bad or a little bit glad. They wanted to teach me in class to write proper books, not just food for the chooks, not prose on the nose. They said you don't know it. You might be a poet. Start a poetry line. It may need to rhyme. You can tell us your views. Also simple. Now I'm talking in rhyme the whole bloody time. Some say I may have a sickness. But I like it, I do. It happens so easy and it fits so together. Like a good wooden flooring. The result can't be boring. Just dance on it once, it'll lift you above. Just love it, don't fly them. The rhyme comes again. I'm flowing, just going. I'm feeling no pain.
James, could I just add that Butte, Montana is the birthplace of Evel Knievel.
Oh, wow.
there's some big gullies here, mate. I think you went over them. Yeah.
I'm sure I did a poem about Evel Knievel just a few weeks ago. Yeah. In a moment I'll invite Andy up. Do you have anything?
No,
just here to listen?
Welcome.
Excellent. This is called Three Little Bunnies. It's I was walking early one morning here in Guyara and there was three little bunnies. And this is what I started writing, and I got home and I finished it by the time I walked home. Three little bunnies were going for a run early in the morning. They were having lots of fun. Three little bunnies with white tails in the air. They were three little bunnies, not three little hare. Three young bunnies from a bunny hole. They were running through a paddock and they saw a baby foal. Standing with its mummy, the foal was with a mare. They were three little bunnies and there wasn't any hair. Three little bunnies saw a mummy frog with a little tadpole. It was sitting on a log. Three little bunnies without any care. They were running having fun and there wasn't any hair. Three little bunnies didn't have a clock. They were in the paddock and they were eating dock. Three little bunnies found a baby bear. But how many times do I have to tell you there wasn't any hair? Three little bunnies running past a tree. I saw three bunnies and they saw me. Three little bunnies in the morning air came around the corner and they ran into a hare. Three little bunnies, a foal and a mare, a frog and a tadpole, plus a baby bear, me and a hare, and three little bunnies, but it wasn't a hare, it was three bunnies' mummy. And before I invite Andy up, I really just wanted to congratulate you on that first one, because about Montana. Like I closed my eyes to listen to it. I was there in that cold place. So yeah, thank you very much.
That's really good. Thank you.
All right, Andy, come on up. A new poet here. Andy, I don't even know your surname.
Buchanan.
Andy Buchanan, a new poet. G'day, John. G'day. Welcome. Have a seat. Come on, come on over.
Right, this is going to be brief because it's on the back of an envelope. Dougie just sprang it on me this morning. Christmas Day, snow in Guyara. Never say never. Douglas sent me a meme. No time to explain. Get in the van. Tony Judge and the road trip to Yamba. Place of plenty shellfish. Thank God the cricket's over and Tamworth Kylie is back on the telly.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
That's
Awesome. Well, it's always great to welcome new poets and to know that you've inspired some new poets. Well, the next one up we've got coming up is Rob Baker, who's going to do some guitaring. So come on up, Rob.
Yes, thanks.
Bring that out of the way. Chair.
I'm going to do three of my favourite songs, and I think they're quite poetic, the lyrics. Stay relevant. The last one's by Banjo Patterson, so it's poetic.
We're going to have Steve here in a moment.
Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things. Girls in white dresses with blue satin sashes, snowflakes that stay on my nose and eyelashes, silver white winters that melt into springs. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dog bites, when the bee sings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad. Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Cream-colored ponies and crisp-apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things. Girls in white dresses with blue satin sashes, snowflakes that stay on my nose and eyelashes, silver white winters that melt into springs. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dog bites, when the bee sings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and I don't feel
It's
so Okay, this next one's by James Taylor, Carolina in My Mind. In my mind, I'm gonna say nice things about me, 'cause I'm gone. Gone to Carolina in my mind. Gone to Carolina in my mind. Gone to Carolina in my Okay, this is Waltzing Matilda. I was digging into this one. I've been getting it. I've got a book by Banjo Patterson that he edited from Guyara Library. I've been getting right into. It's called Old Bush Songs, and this is in there. And there's a bit of controversy about this song. It sort of got all bastardised throughout the 20th century. and lyrics changed and sort of used for propaganda purposes, recruiting in the First World War and Second World War and that sort of stuff, and also to sell Billy tea. But the lyrics I use here, I've got another book from Guyara Library, and it's Banjo Patterson's 3 granddaughters and their favourite poems. It's a book of poems for Banjo Patterson, their favourites of their grandfather, and I've used the lyrics from the Waltzing Matilda in that book. So I think it's fairly authentic, you know. It's what his granddaughters wanted. I think it's what Banjo wanted. Okay, Waltzing Matilda. Matilda, my darling, come a waltzing.
you, Rob.
Thank you, James.
So that's a great version of a great Australian poem. Now the story goes that Banjo Patterson was having a go at his neighbours when he wrote that song. How can I say? He was up on this station up at where was it? Windor or something? No. Dagsworth Station. And there'd been a swaggy or a shearer who was quite an agitator. And he was having a dig at the next station over where the squatter and apparently 3 policemen, or maybe not, chucked this guy into the billabong and murdered him. But then, it's not so romantic after all. And also the waltzing Matilda part comes from the German settlers, colonisers, who during their war marches back in old Germany used to take prostitutes on the marches with them, and they were called Matildes or Matildas. Now they didn't have that here in Australia, but the swaggies would carry their swag over their shoulder, and it was called their Matilda because that's what they would sleep with. So yeah, just a little bit of history.
No, is that belief or fact?
No, that's actual fact, that part. Yeah. All right. In a moment, I'm going to invite Gladys Wilson up, but every April is International Poetry Month. And one of the challenges that happens on Facebook is the Dirty 30. And there's 30 days of poetry prompts to write one piece of poetry every day. I'm going to read you 3 of those now. This is from day 4. And the challenge was, what would happen if you were suddenly given your, say, niece or nephew to babysit for a day? The mountain. Let's go climb a mountain. We'll be mountain kings and look out over valley, and we won't need toys or things. The mountain's very high with waterfalls and streams. Today there'll be no gaming in other people's dreams. We'll cross a field of flowers, then walk through forests tall. There'll be no phone connection and we'll miss the football. And when we reach the top green valleys we will see. Today we'll climb a mountain and we won't watch TV. We might see koalas, emus, snakes and kangaroos, and I know for sure there'll be lorikeets and plenty of cockatoos. We'll eat bush tucker, there's abundance in the bush. We'll get all hot and sweaty, but onwards we will push. Halfway up the mountain we'll sit down under trees and collect some honey from the native bees. We will reach the top and be up so very high, wisps of white clouds floating on breezes in the sky. Let's go climb a mountain and get closer to the sun, and as we're descending we can break into a run, and at the very top though we'll see a gorgeous sight of more mountains to climb, and we'll sleep well tonight. The mountain's very high, and I know you will achieve the heights that you will reach if you just believe. We will swing from vines while the whipbirds sing, and the kookaburras laughing will make our ears ring. I see that you're excited and no longer looking bitter. Today your mama asked me to be your babysitter. I know that you can do it. Yes, I know you can. You're not a baby now that you're a young man. And, look, I guess a lot of people have had their Christmases turned upside down this year with I'm a moron variant going around. It's true, yeah. My parents had one grandson there because my sister and partner came up from Gold Coast to Brisbane, went to pick up my other son to take him to Christmas, and they got the message: you got a variant, or you've been near someone with a variant, something like that. So they all couldn't go there because of their stuff. Well, I didn't plan on Christmas with anyone this year, so I went out to a place called Cathedral Rock. That was my church for the day, on top of a mountain. And the message I got there was one from someone who's a wise old man, Pop My Barnes Walker. And the message is, look after Mum. That's it. Look after Mum, Mother Earth. That's it. Simple as, look after Mum. Now, day 11 of the Dirty 30 Challenge prompt was time travel with a sidekick. And I'll just clarify, I don't have a girlfriend and I am single, alright? Time tripping. I travelled with my girlfriend back in time to the end of the year 1999. We hacked all the computers and changed the day, so nothing happened in Y2K. Then I time travelled forward with my girlfriend to December 2012 and stopped the world's end. Now, in 2021, there was no apocalypse because my girlfriend and I went on time trips. We also went to October 1962, stopped the Cuban Missile Crisis, because that's what we do. And on the 9th of November 1989, we pushed the Berlin Wall down and had a frickin' party time. On the 11th of November 1918, we stopped World War I and the war machine. Now in 2021, there's no war, no more. My girlfriend and I made love and not war. Okay. I don't know what the prompt was. This was day 30 from the day 20 from the 2020, the Dirty 30. Sorry, It's called a melting pot. A blind person can't know darkness. A blind person cannot know light, but they can know sound and know left and right. A deaf person can't know silence, nor can a deaf person know sound. But they can see what's about, top, bottom, the sky and ground. A field of flowers can be colourful or just green and yellow sunflowers. Many seconds make minutes, many minutes make hours. In noise, you cannot hear silence. In silence, you can't hear a sound. It takes two cats to make kittens, two dogs together make hounds. To know good, we need to know bad. Sadness needs happy, and happiness needs to know sad. Cleanliness also needs crappy. A pot that is empty is always a pot full of air, is it not? Being needs doing, as does doing needs being. There's capital in socialism and society in capitalism, linearity in empiricalism, individuality in Catholicism with a small c. A wheel needs spokes as it needs a centre hole. There is one big melting pot known as the whole. There is here, here is there, then is when is then, Zen is all and all is Zen, and the circle's beginning is the end. And with that, I'm going to invite, now this person is a very special person to me. She was one of the first people I met when I came to Guyara. She's the most friendliest person I've ever met and the friendliest person in Guyara. And not only that, she was inducted into the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame this year as for the Up and Coming Poets Award for her contribution to preserving history through her poetry. So welcome everybody, Gladys Wilson.
Thank you, Jane, for those kind words.
You're always welcome here,
Well, my
Gladys.
head's double the size now.
Don't fall over, you won't be able to get up.
Well, this is one I wrote a little way back, and it's just called Australia. We live in this wonderful country that's divided by land and sea, where our Anzacs fought for freedom to keep us all safe and free. With this ever-growing nation of ours, there's so much to share. Let's all stand together as proud Australians to show that we really care. The rugged landscape of the bushland, with peacefully flowing rivers and streams, our beautiful scenic view of the historic Blue Mountains is the envy of one's dreams. Still all of nature's creations, nothing can compare to the everlasting eucalyptus and sweet-smelling scent of wattle that drifts in the evening air. But even with good intentions, many still like to brag about our precious icon, the good old Aussie flag. We should all be thankful in this life, as there's peace forevermore, with our villains and bush rangers of long ago that have now vanished from our shore. The kangaroo and emu, koala, our cockatoo, and the red glow of the setting sun that hangs over Uluru. Please raise our hands to salute our country that's ever so rich and rare. Now come on mate, let's celebrate Advance Australian Fair. Woo! I thank James very much, because James is, I got to know James as a stranger in here one day, and I popped in because I always like to meet people, and I popped in here. And James didn't know me and I didn't know him, but he wanted to know something about the history of this place. So I invited him, a stranger, into my lounge room for a cup of tea, and we have been friends ever since. So that's how, you come to meet friendships. But also, I've been around, I was born here, so I know just about everything about Guyara. So, yeah. So, and I know my old friend over there. So he was on stage one day here, and he was called a complete stranger. Well, what did I do? He was up there, he's coming off stage, so I went up and introduced myself, and we've been very good friends ever since. So, it just goes to show that if you just talk to people and meet people, but I have been on odd occasions known as Guyara's ambassador, because I've been out here and I've talked to people and I've met strange people, from very strange ones. There's one over there. But at any rate, it's lovely to have you all in here tonight too, and to do this poetry, because I've been coming here I think close to 2 years, and I've wrote a few others, and my one that I did write, the gum tree, and it was my first one, I think. Oh, I did write The Politician's Nightmare, and that was around one election time, and of course you know what they carry on with. So yes, I've done that one. But anyway, I thank James once again for allowing me to have my say here tonight, because there's someone else that wants to read. You are going to got something, have you, mate?
No.
Oh, just be right. Yeah, so if anybody you want to read something, you're quite welcome, because I don't take. I'm not the owner of this hall, I can assure you. Not that I wouldn't mind them. Okay, well, thank you, James. And I'll get
Thank you, Gladys Wilson. I'm going to invite so Paul next, and then you've got something you wouldn't know. Right, okay, but then we got Steve Wordsmith. Too.
Oh yes, my old friend over there. Yes.
So Paul, come on up, Paul Wood.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Parts. Been a great year for me. I'm a newbie here. I call myself a bloke in town. We come from Queensland, like Thundercloud, and it's a good place, I think, for everybody here. It's a right-sized place. The people here are down to earth. We've enjoyed our stay here. We call it home now. We've been a lot of places. Guyara's a place where down-to-earth people are happy and contented with what's here and not with what's not here, and we feel the same. Tonight I'm going to sing a song. I'm a bit rusty, I haven't sang for a while, and I don't have any accompaniment. It's what they call a cappella, which means, I think, at the chapel. This is a song by Hank Williams, and he claimed this to be one of his favourite songs, and I think it was quite a good song because it's exactly the story of his life. And this one's called Lost Highway. I'm a rolling stone, all alone and lost. For life or sin, I have paid the cost. When I walk by, all the people say, just another guy on the lost highway. Just a deck of cards and a jug of wine, and a woman's lies makes a life like mine. When we first met, I fell astray. I started roaming down that lost highway. I was just a lad, nearly 22. Neither good nor bad, just a kid like you. And now I'm lost, too late to pray. Gotta pay the price on the lost highway. Now boys, don't start to a rambling round, or this road of sin, or you're trouble bound. Take my advice, or you'll curse the day you started walking down that lost highway.
No.
Lovely, well, thank you very much. So, here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, we have a number of events throughout the year. One of those is our every Saturday morning markets here for Guyara markets. That's 8:30 to 12:30 every Saturday. We have Wednesday Words, open mic poetry night. And coming up on the 14th of January, because the Lamb and Potato Festival was cancelled, but the show will go on here, we've got the Big Hairy Bush Dance Band. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so we're having a bush dance here. It's $15 for adults, $10 for children, or $40 for the family. It'll be, a family, all ages gig. And the Big Hairy Bush Dance Band is a 9-piece from Armidale. And they do walkthroughs and dance calls, so you don't have to be able to dance to come to it. So because they teach you how to do it on the night, so it'll be heaps and heaps and heaps and heaps of fun in the big hall just over there. And the other thing that happens around the end of March, the beginning of March, we've got the Woodfordia Festival of Small Halls tour coming here with a couple of acts from the Woodford Folk Festival, which is happening right now in Queensland, I think. So that'll be the 3rd of March. It's a Thursday night. And the other thing is each year we announce the inductees into the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. And one of those is our living legends of Australian poetry. And we're joined tonight by the 2021 living legend of Australian poetry and poet in residence, Steve Wordsmith. Come on up, Steve.
Well, good day, James. How are you? And good day, the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. It's always wonderful to be here. What a fabulous place and a lovely time to be had. You know, we sort of wonder at times about the icons and such of Australia and such, you know, and we write things about them and such, you know, but it's really good to see some new faces here that I haven't met before, and that's always good. You're still alive over there, James, are you? I just thought you might have just dropped over there. Yeah, see, sometimes people say, where do you come from? See, I was brought up in the country in a place called Wedderburn, on the side of the Georges River with the stags and the elks and the ferns. There wasn't many luxuries, you know, things weren't very plush, but we had this long drop dunny called the orifice of the bush. There's one thing that I know for sure, and I spent a lot of time just doodling in the dirt there, and I even wrote some rhyme, a place to fantasise and figure out. But everything was true, a hideout from the washing up like young lads often do. I'd always lift the lid up to avoid a bit of fright, to eradicate the chances of the dreaded redback bite. Like mum's old chook, I'd settle in with me pants around me knees to the sound of the neighbour's rampant bull and fruit bats in the trees. Like a medieval king, I'd sit upon his gilded throne, my favourite place, I must admit, in our lovely country home. Yes, I'm a connoisseur of dunnies, of this it is a fact, a place to try, a place to check before I hang my hat. I remember when I left the bush in a council house in town, there was an outhouse out the back. Yeah, a place to settle down. It wasn't quiet as our country home, but it had all the mods and cons. Running water, electric light, and an oven to make scones. I'd only been there a week, I think, when I woke with an awful fright. There was a shadow past the window in the middle of the night. I'd heard about these prowlers and their low-down thieving tricks, but they'd taken on the wrong bloke this time, this lad from out the sticks. Well, I hit the floor a run. There wasn't time to put on clothes. I'll get that flaming larrikin and I'll probably break his nose. Through the front door quietly. The blood was pumping fast. I'd stop him at the gate, I thought, as the bare feet hit the grass. He was running up the footpath with his booty on his back. I'd played rugby in my school days and I'd stop him in his track. Well, I hit him round the ankles and he had nowhere to go. Yeah, I dropped him like a dunny lid, and all he said was, "No!" The smell was something awful. I'd never live it down. I'd nailed the poor old dunny man and I'd dropped him on the ground. There was excretion all across the grass and right across the road. The lid had left the dunny can and he dropped the flaming load. Well, throughout my years of wandering, I think I've tried the lot. There's the environmental sound ones, there's flush lavatories, and there's pots. There's collectors of pubs, of pins, of bold stamps and plants, but I'm the international. No, universal secretary of the place you drop your pants. I've tested loos across this land and I've tried the loos abroad. There's the ones you pull the chain on, there's authentic ones, and there's frauds, but there's nothing in comparison when you have to strain and push. As good old Aussie Dunny and the orifice of the bush. That was a story that I wrote many years ago for the orifice of the bush in Tenterfield. And that's become quite a big storytelling. Yeah.
Is it true?
Is it true? Oh, mate, you'll never know.
What is true is that Steve was one of the people who thunk up the idea of the Tenterfield oracles of the bush.
I was the Tenterfield cobbler at that time, so yeah.
So he started that.
Me and Brian Meldrum, who I think is still presently the Tenterfield saddler. Yeah, we came up with that 20 odd years ago.
26, I reckon. Yeah,
about 26 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, so there's many tales to be told, and we tell some other people's stories too, you know, because some of the stories that we tell are little icons again. By the sluggish river Guyara lived this wicked redback spider, who was just about as vicious as could be. Now the place he made his camp in was this Rusty Jones's jam tin in a paddock near the showground at Moree. Well, near him lay the shearer snoozing. He'd been drinking beer and boozing all the night before and all the previous day. And the cooking of the cookers and the noise of the showtown spruikers failed to raise him from the trance in which he lay. Well, there came this crafty-looking spieler with a dainty-looking Sheila. They were collecting wood to make a fire, and he said, "There's a boozer, and he's going to be a loser if he isn't. You can christen me a liar. Well, you just stand and take it, honey, while I fan this mug for money, and we'll have some dainty luxuries for tea." But she said, "Don't be silly, you go back and boil the billy. You can safely leave this mug to little me." Well, she circled ever nearer to that dopey-looking shearer, his pockets bulging fast asleep and snug. But she never saw the spider that was circling round beside her. She was too busy with the money and the mug. Well, the spider needed dinner. He'd been daily growing thinner. He'd fasted long and for a feed he'd yearn. When she reached that shearer's pocket, he darted like a rocket and he bit that spieler's Sheila on the stern. Well, the Sheila started squealing. Her clothes she was unpeeling. To hear her yells would make you feel forlorn. While one hand on the bite was pressing, the other was undressing, and she reached the camp the way that she was born. Well, the shearer, pale and haggard, back to town he staggered, where he caught a train and he gave the booze a rest. But he'll never know the spider that was living by the Guyara that saved him 90 smackers of the best. That was one of those really well-known poets. I don't know, it's Anon, I think.
Anon, yeah.
Yeah, Anon. Yeah, we hear about him all the time. Yeah. Something a little bit more, okay. I met him first near Warren working on a starved out farm. He was skeletor and sallow, lean of shank and long of arm, wide lips and flared out nostrils that bespoke his native blood. Battler, scratching hard existence in this land of drought and flood. But he won a tight survival chasing rabbits day and night. He had no gun nor ammunition. Used to knock 'em out and fight with a waddy for a weapon. Junk or rock was just the same. And he'd grab that groggy bunny and he'd say, "That was deadly aim." Seldom off his target gave those spielers a little rest in them knock-'em sock-'em alleys in the showground out the west. The day that I enlisted, he was standing next to me, and I heard him tell the captain that his name was Darky Lee. Often quiet and moody, lonely in a crowd, no doubt, or perhaps the dip of colour made him feel the odd man out. But he was a willing soldier, and a dinkum cobber too, like the night the MP's quarters at that swai game in the loo. Yeah, he nailed that provost sergeant cold as any side of meat, with a well-aimed whiskey bottle at the range of 20 feet. Mighty quick we were escaping, and I heard our mate exclaim, as we scarpered through the alleys, "Fellas, that was deadly aim." Then our mob embarked for service to a land across the sea, where the final call awaited for that bloke called Darky Lee. It was at the Flanders dust up at a place called Blardner's Court. We copped the bad position. Yeah, men cut off without support, and that enemy machine gun keeping up a steady fire, safe and sound in their encampment beyond barricade and wire. Flat we lay like bloody lizards on that piece of shell-raped plain, and that enemy machine gun pelted lead like summer rain. Well, our choice was die like heroes or the white surrender flag. When our officer decided it was time to sky the rag, take your choice, a German prison or a group of unmarked mounds. When this bloke goes racing past me like a hare before the hounds, strike me blue, but it was Darky, like an emu crouching low. In his right hand was a grenade swinging ready for the throw. No cover to protect him, dashing daring as you please, where those Mitchell houses chattered and the bullets hummed like bees. And fair into that enemy gun pit, he dispatched his first grenade. Screams were heard from brave men dying as that scarlet blossom burst. Then he sent 'em up another, just as quickly as the first. German gunner or a rabbit, it was all the same to our champion Bundy chucker. He maintained his deadly aim. Then a dying spurt of gunfire rang the bell on Darky Lee. By the time the medics got there, he was very nearly gone, though his belly parts were punctured. His heart was hanging on, and in final grief we listened to the gasp that shook his frame. And the final words he uttered, "Fellas, that was deadly aim." Just another unsung hero gone unhallowed and unsung, one of many number when the final curtain rung. Native son with small ambition, our heart's decree, a soldier in the true tradition, rest untroubled, Darky Lee. I don't like to leave people in a bottom place or anything like that, so we'll go a bit light-hearted about it, eh? Yeah, it's always fun. I love being able to do poetry. It's really good to see enthusiastic people doing poetry here, and I just thank James for setting this place up to be able to be a stage for the poets of this country,
Yeah.
and to see the books of the poetry of the past. It's a great place to be. And really feel privileged to have been nominated to be the living legend for the 2021.
Something wrong?
About 20 years ago, or maybe even 30 years ago now, I happened to be the representative for Australia at the World Expo. And I stood up there for 36 days, and there was 14 hours a day on a microphone introducing acts and such. And I really, at that stage, was a sort of a poet. I was just starting to put poetry down. But you stand in front of 10,000 people and you wonder, what do you say? Near the rambling Richmond River where the ghosts of cedar barges rise from derelicts and skeletons, telling tales of years gone by, of the early cedar cutters who braved the coastal ranges to reap the valued harvest that the massive forests hide. But the years have passed so quickly, and the banks are now near barren, through the mighty Richmond Valley from Nashua down to Coracai, and the river's seldom used now for transport or for pleasure, and the water's brown and mud-stained as the land gives up the fight. From years of torrential downpours that's caused the land erosion, and floods that stole the topsoil that the big scrub held in place, where once there was an abundance of the fighting Richmond black bass, now from the murky muddy waters comes the catfish and the eel. Yes, the Richmond's only one place in this wondrous world around us. The man has taken over and he's stirred the flaming pot. But he'll reap his just deserts though, when he plays with Mother Nature, and she says the game's now over, and starves the bloody lot. I think we, in critical times, in critical places, we see lots of things happening, and we understand that we have damaged the mother in many ways, and we are still doing it. And she gives us everything. She looks after us. She gives us the food. She gives us everything that we get. The minerals that we mine all come from the ground, and we have damaged and raped this mother of ours. And it's shocking. But these things will be said. There once was a shearer by the name of Bluey the Brink. He was a devil for work and a devil for drink. He could shear his 200 a day without fear, and drink without winking 4 gallons of beer. Now Jimmy the barman who served out the drink, he just hated the sight of here Bluey the Brink. He stayed much too late and he came much too soon, in the morning and the night, and the daytime and at noon. Well, one day when Jimmy was cleaning the bar with sulphuric acid that he kept in a jar, old Bluey come yelling and bawling with thirst. Whatever you've got, Jim, just give me the first. Well, it ain't in the histories and it ain't put in print, But Bluey drank acid with never a stint. Said, that's the stuff Jimmy will strike me stone dead. That'll make me the ringer of Stevenson's shed. Well, all that long day as he served out the beer, poor Jimmy was worried with his troubles and fear. Too worried to argue, too anxious to fight. All he could see was his corpse in his fright. Well, early next morning as he opened the door, along came the shearer. He was yelling for more, with his eyebrows all singed and his whiskers deranged, and holes in his hide like a dog with the mange. Said Jimmy, and how do you like that new stuff? Said Bluey, it was fine, but ain't it enough? It gave me great courage to shear and to fight. But every cough set me whiskers alight. I thought a new drink, but I must have been wrong, for what you gave me was proper and strong. It set me to coughing, and you know I'm no liar, but every cough set me whiskers on fire. Yeah. It's always good to be here, James, and you know, it's always good to be able to tell a story or two. I've got many stories to tell, but we only have limited times here to do, and James likes me to just drop a few in every now and then. I'm short. Do you want some more?
Have you got one more?
Oh, mate, I've always got one. Always got one. Well, time has come to tell a tale of the way men live and the way men fail. Throughout this many trials of life, avoiding the pitfalls and all the strife. Yeah, there's many things to be told, you know. We just need to be telling. You know, many tales are not being told by pirates young and pirates old. But let's listen, When you open up your eyes to realise the real eyes and realise the real lies, there's many real lies to be told. And there's many real lies that's been exposed at the moment. And that's really good. It's really good to see some of those things. There's, that's my book there. My book is Where the Rubber Hits the Road in this game they call life. It was published in 2013, so it's getting a bit old hat, and it's about time I come up with something new. I've got many new stories, but I think I'll read you one out of this book, because I think it's some that's worth reading. Let's go. If I can find some glasses, because as we get older, we can't always see the same. There's many stories here, you know. You all thought it was Federation and Henry's pompous speech that broke the class distinction of this land. Well, I tell you by my reckoning, it was something more profound. It was in God's hands and his almighty plan. It was the equalising factor that makes us all the same, whether your nose is in the air or you sat here in the drain. You don't know where they've been and you haven't got a clue, but if your number's up, my friend, it's going to get you too. There are things that people say and things that people do that equalise us fellas and define us through and through, but there's nothing more Australian in anybody's eyes than going to an Aussie barbecue without devouring flies. So put yourself in the picture, you're dressed up, you're looking smart, you're on your best behaviour, you're trying to look the part, you're talking to some ladies and you've got your hand around the beer, and that little black intruder does a number in there. What about the reaction? You're down the cattle yard, the auctioneer is spieling and things are moving fast. He stops to take a swallow of air to give him breath. And a fly goes up his nostril. Well, you simply know the rest. Well, serving in our forces, we have this special task. It's called equalising eradication duty. It really is a blast. You wander around the perimeter with a swat in either mitt, and if a fly gets past the sentries, you're really in for it. When you're an Aussie soldier, you're really in control. Even in the deepest jungle, or when you're on patrol, it's from hours of standing motionless while at detention on parade with 1,000 little black things doing a tap dance on your face. Well, come on, all you ladies, don't think that you miss out. There's no discrimination when the equaliser's out. You're acting prim and proper, you're really looking grand. But that fly you just swallowed really wasn't planned. You go to the local rodeo, you think you'll have a dance, though the girl in the red bikini has all the cowboys in a trance. She swallows a little black thing, you'd think she'd had a fit, and her bra acts like a Shanghai and she shows the boys a bit. Even Johnny Flippin' Fun, with his mouth so open wide, gives an open invitation, all intruders come inside. In that wondrous grand finale when he goes to hit that note and the little Aussie battler does a beeline for his throat. We have no class distinction in this great Australian land because of the equalising factor that takes us all in hand. There's nothing more demoting when you're going to eat a pie and your taste buds are simply tingling and you go and eat a fly. So when people make that statement, they don't know and understand why God in all his glory, with the wave of his great hand, created those little black ants, or why God created flies. It's the Australian equalising factor, and you know the reason why. Yeah. Now, some of my poems, I think they have a message in them sometimes. And I just wonder, you know, I met this fella once, and yeah, I was in the cobbler shop, and he brought this jacket in. And he was an old guy around town, and we got chatting and all that, and I shed a tear the other night for things that I had done as I stitched the jacket of a friend and thought of songs unsung. Well, I'd opened up this cobbler shop and started fixing shoes, doing repairs to leatherwork. It was a change from cleaning flues. I'd been opened up a little while and things were looking grand. There were shoes and boots up to my ears. It was better than I'd planned. Well, my old mate dropped his jacket in, for when I had some time. He'd asked if I'd repair it, and I said that would be fine. This jacket got dropped in a heap, and it got covered up with boots. Sometimes my pile is like our lives, as if no one gives a hoot. Yes, I'd prattle onto this old guy and we'd shared the time of day. Yes, I thought that I was something, and I bragged about my ways. Well, we talked about our Aussie kids who didn't know or understand of battles fought and won abroad and bloodshed in the sand. Of 700 horsemen. 700 horsemen who'd crossed the desert sands and faced the fearful Turkish guns at the gates of Jerusalem. How their fathers in their glory had faced the fire that day, how they'd taken on the enemy cross bodies where they lay. He told me that he disagreed, but he didn't elaborate. He left me there just pondering. He left me in a state. Well, I saw him in the march today and he ignored me when I waved. I didn't know what I'd done or if I'd misbehaved. Well, I dug the jacket up today. My intentions were to mend. And on the shoulder, I read Top Gun. It was the jacket of my friend. When Tom Cruise made the movie and they christened him Top Gun and they showed us of his struggles, but really he's got none. And then you meet a humble man who's Aussie through and through, who fought to keep Australia free. I'd call that man True Blue. This fella was a real Top Gun, a pilot of renown. He'd fought the Hun up in the air and he'd fought them on the ground. Well, heroes are in the movies, and it's hard to understand. We watch them on the big screen and think they're Superman. We never know the story of people that we meet or what caused that man to take to drink as we pass him in the street. Yeah, I have my beliefs too, so when the God of all creation sent his one, his only son, I wasn't even thought of when they said he was the one. When they turned the water into wine and he touched the blind man's eyes, when he walked upon the waters, it was way before my time. And the thorns were digging in his head and they spat upon his face with eyes so deep he looked at them and he shone with all his grace. He's the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end, and even back 2,000 years. he was thinking of us then. See, it's all a tale of a river. It's told by a man in a dream. The dream was inspired by the Sovereign Lord, and it's a blessing for you and for me. This river, it enters the ocean. The fresh washes away the saline and the brine. Your stagnant waters start flowing, and there's creatures of many species and kind. On the banks of the river grow orchards, fruit trees of many a kind, and they'll produce on a monthly basis as the fresh replaces the brine. You can paddle in up to your ankles, you can wade in up to your knees, but it's better to go right in, to be submerged, to be purified, and to be cleaned. Some say he was an outlaw, he roamed across the land with a band of unskilled ruffians and a few old fishermen. No one knew from where he came or exactly what he'd done, but they thought it must have been something bad to keep him on the run. Some say he was a poet, he made a stand upon the hill, and his voice could calm an angry crowd and make the waves stand still. He spoke in many parables that few could understand, and people sat for hours just to listen to this man. Some say a politician because he spoke of being free. He was followed by the masses on the shores of Galilee. He spoke loud against corruption and bowed to no decree, but they feared his strength and power, so they nailed him to a tree. Some say he was a sorcerer, a man of mystery. He walked upon the waters and he caused the blind to see. He conjured wine at weddings and did tricks with fish and bread, and talked of being born again and raised people from the dead. Some say he was the Son of God, a man above all men, but he came to be a servant and set us free from sin. And that's who I believe he was, because that's who I believe. And if you believe in JC, it's nearly time to leave. But I don't believe that. I believe Jesus is here, he's in everyone that lives here, and he lives in our hearts. And the more that we engross that and know, he passes love on, unconditional love, and this is what it's all about now. We've gone through the past, the hurt, the pain. We're going into a new dimension, which is love, sharing, kindness, and community. Have a nice night. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, James.
Yes. Okay. Thanks for joining us.
Good meeting, everyone.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
And that book from Steve Wordsmith, where the rubber hits the road in this game they call life. You can get it here from the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, or also online. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah, e-books, yeah.
Yeah, as an e-book.
It's also in 2,500 bookshops across the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. 2,500 bookshops across the world. So, a living legend of Australian poetry. Thanks again, Steve Wilson. I get to meet a lot of interesting people here, and this is a quatrain I wrote about one guy. I met a fella here called Ken Grates. 2. Ken Grates lived in a town, one in the centre, the other far down. People got confused and sometimes irate, so they named one Far Ken Great. That's it. Fucking great. All right. Now, one of the things I like about one of Steve's poems is, well, he writes. He lived in Tenterfield, was where Henry Parkes did his Federation speech in what 1896.
69 he made the 1869 he made the speech. In 1991 it came into being.
Yeah, and then he died in 1896 before Federation and all of that. And one of the things he spoke about was abolishing all the states. Now, in 1988, in a referendum, Australians voted overwhelmingly not to include local government in our constitution, which then meant that all of the state governments had to implement special legislation to legitimise the corporations that are local governments. This was inspired by a local woman, Carolyn Palmer, who is a great potter. And a story she told me one morning when she came for coffee. It's called Peter the Pothole Plugger. Driving down the main street, I hit a pothole in my car, my tyre deflated, the rim was bent. I wasn't going far. I saw a council worker who was painting poles beside potholes. I walked over to him and asked him, "Why don't you fill the holes?" He replied, "I'm Peter, pole painter, and filling holes is not my job. There's another fella who fills holes, and his name is Bob." Feeling so frustrated, I began to rant and scream, "You both work for the council. Am I living in a dream?" Peter, the pole painter, said, "There's nothing I can do. If I filled the potholes, there'd be one job and not two. There would be no one for me to stand about with and chat. Me or Bob would have no job and only one hard hat." Further down the road, I met Mick, the supervisor. He referred me on to his overseer, whose name was Eliza. Eliza said she couldn't help because it's not her job. "You need to see the overseer of Pot Hill Filler Bob." The overseer of potholes said, "You must fill in a form. It could take a month or more, I feel I must inform. Then I must send the form right down through the line. Getting potholes filled by Bob is going to take some time." I stormed into the council chambers, didn't give a greeting. All the councillors were gathered sitting in a meeting. "Your potholes all need filling. They have stuffed my tyre. How can I get potholes filled? This council's a quagmire." Peter the pole painter said, "Potholes is not my job. Eliza referred me to the overseer of pothole filling, Bob. Getting potholes filled is looking quite remote." The mayor stood up and answered, "Let's put this to a vote. I move that the council pays to fix the tyre of Caroline. Bob is on long service leave now, and this could take some time." The councillors all voted to pay for my tyre repair, and the potholes still aren't fixed, much to my despair. And all the poles in town have a new coat of paint. Apart from all the potholes, our town is looking quaint. Bob has just retired and they're advertising his job. The only applicant was Peter, who's replacing Bob. And I'm the gorilla sign implanter all around the town, putting signs by potholes like, "Don't swim here, you'll drown." And just last week, this pothole swallowed a whole school bus, and people come from far and wide to photograph the fuss. Peter's now a pothole plugger, plugging our potholes. Bob's son Patrick is painting poles. He used to work at Coles. The council is bankrupt and under administration, still is overstaffed, and there's no change to this situation. And this is what is happening to all our taxes and rates. It's time to streamline government, abolish councils and the states. The truth is council's overstaffed, and this is not a joke. Too many layers of bureaucracy mean the country's going broke. Woo! Alright, yeah, true story. Now, I asked for some poetry prompts once. I had a little bit of a blank, so I got time is like. Time is like a trip to the toilet. A long line to wait will spoil it. Or you might walk straight in and find an overflowing bin. Hasn't been cleaned for a while. Sometimes, and toilets are vile. Some visits are very quick, then other times will make you sick. Sometimes you'll feel queer, spraying vile diarrhea, vomiting and on your knees. Or on time and clean, like Japanese toilets with technology. They warm your bum as you pee. Sit and happily contemplate. Check the time. Shit, I'm late. That's it. Finally, I'm going to end out with one little quick one, because we're in the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. What is poetry? Poetry is a many splendid gift. It's cathartic for the poet. It also makes spirits lift. Prosaic ways to express and show it, linguistic gymnastics and subversive semantics, descriptive, derisive, plus elements of joy. Poetry is the vocabulary that poets employ. Alliteration, rhythmic, aesthetic, symbolic, invocation of peace, bliss, compassionate, melancholic. Poetry is whatever you want it to be. Metered, structured, including verse that's free. Poetry has saved many a self-destructive life. Truth tellers calling out agendas of strife. Poets write to inspire and lift all of our collective consciousnesses higher. One thing is that poets are the unofficial legislators of the world, and I'm going to finish off with a little bit of sort of stuff that 19 hours ago this was written. Hilshi Walker sat on a mushroom and clapped. The dragon, who bent over the fence and slapped little Bo Billy, who was asleep in a pile with little Bo Peep. Little Bo Billy asked, "Why did you do that? I'm a sloth and I shouldn't have to put up with that crap. Little Bo Peep is my girlfriend, you know. Just because I'm a sloth doesn't mean I'm slow." The dragon replied, "You can't harm me. Who's gonna stop me? You and whose army?" Hilshi Walker got up and said, "I'm gonna help." Stomped on the dragon's tail and it gave a yelp. Then little Bo Peep called all of her sheep. They surrounded the dragon and then began to weep. The dragon said, "I'm sorry, it was all in good fun. I didn't really mean to upset or harm anyone." Little Bo Billy said, "Well, you shouldn't be a bully. None of us will take it, a little bit or fully. If you want to have friends, then it's best you will find. You'll make many more friends being loving and kind." Woo! Thank you everybody tonight for your attendance. Thank you Steve, Gladys, and everybody else here. Doug, Paul, Rob, Andy, and the rest of the audience who shall remain unnamed. Henry Kendall for his staff. Everybody out there on the interweb around the world, throughout Australia as well, watching. Much appreciated for the whole year, and we'll see you all next year.